Hey Central New York hikers, my name is Garrett Maynard.
And I'm Alexa Blanc.
And we are students at CNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, coming to you today to talk to you about an invasive species here in our Central New York ecosystems called Slender false brome. And it's important because it's currently threatening the beautiful areas we have and we love to enjoy here. So stay tuned, get stoked. We're going to talk about some identification and some of the ways that it's been impacting these ecosystems. And yeah, let's rock and roll, all right?
Alright everyone, we're going to talk about identification. Like many other grasses, it's distinctly bright green, but there are other characteristics that make it easier to identify. The blades are 1/3 to 1/4 inch thick, and if you go onto the underside of many of the blades, there are distinct fine hairs that if you run your finger across, you can definitely feel them, and if you hold them up to light, you definitely see them. They're a little hard to find at first, but when you hold it up to the light, you'll definitely find them. Okay, so mature and young plants both have similar structures when you look at them. The mature plants have more of a nodding form, while the younger plants look like kind of like spider formations on the ground. But all of them are kind of in this similar structure that they're in like a ball form and they're singly placed alongside each other. Alright, so let's talk about flowering. Right now it is May 1st up here in Central New York, but it will begin to flower from mid-May to July. The flowering will begin in the center of the plant and it will come up to about here. So there's no flowering on this plant right now, but it's likely to occur soon, and the stalks come right straight up out of the center and they begin to droop at the ends.
Now that you are basically a pro at identifying Slender false brome, we're going to go through and talk about why Slender false brome is so impactful here in the ecosystems of Central New York. And the first thing we need to talk to you about is the ability of Slender false brome to tolerate a wide range of habitats. So Slender false brome's preferred habitat is like a moist forest floor, just like what you see around me with a beautiful creek off to the side here, or when you looked at Slender false brome with Alexa doing some ID practice. That's the perfect environment for Slender false brome to thrive. However, Slender false brome doesn't really care where it ends up. As long as it has some good soil with a little bit of water, it's gonna thrive. And once it does thrive, it will go crazy because, for one, they produce hundreds of seeds per plant per growing season. And for two, they also self-fertilize, which means that every seed that this plant produces has the potential to go on and become a new invasive population. And that's why prevention is so important. But before we get to prevention, we're going to talk to you about another topic on its impact. Alright everybody, the next thing we need to consider with regard to Slender false brome is its ability to fundamentally alter the ecosystems that it invades. So, it might seem like a harmless grass, right? It's pretty small, it doesn't do too much, but that couldn't be further from the truth. And that's because, like I said before, Slender false brome creates hundreds of seeds per plant per growing season, and it self-fertilizes, which means that it has the potential, once it establishes in a healthy environment, it can spread rapidly. And when it spreads rapidly, it spreads densely. And when it spreads densely into these thick monocultural patches of this grass, you displace many native species in the process. And therefore, Slender false brome alters every single level of that ecosystem to varying degrees. But it's important, not just as a grass, but as a full ecosystem invader. So the best way we as hikers can prevent the spread of Slender false brome is to make sure we are brushing off our boots before and after we enter hiking trails. So I recommend just purchasing a boot brush for yourself if you do not have one. They're rather affordable. Or use the ones that are provided at popular trailheads. Usually state parks have them, but many other parks do as well. And that is one of the best ways we can do that. But if you're hiking and you come across a grass that you think is Slender false brome, make sure you take a picture of it, make a note of your location, and send in that information to isinfo@dec.newyork.gov. Thank you so much for sticking with it today. We so appreciate your time learning about this invasive species that is currently threatening these beautiful natural spaces all around us. So ultimately, as we've learned about ID, we've learned about the impacts it has on our ecosystems, and we also learned how to prevent it. So with those prevention strategies, it is ultimately up to us as the hikers in Central New York to determine whether or not this will remain the home of the brave
or become the home of the brome.
All right, see everybody. Thanks for tuning in.